I'm Corey with Corey's Greenhouse Cleaning, and today we're going to talk about the science behind greenhouse cleaning. So I'll be pulling together a lot of journal articles, interesting facts and ideas and things. So come with me and we're going to go on this journey together. So before we get into that, I want to just let you know one of the changes that have gone on for this business. So basically the videos that you are watching right now, instead of coming out once a week, I'll be doing that once a month. And so I'll be still giving you that awesome, educational, hopefully fun videos regarding cleaning, and whether that's tools or information like this that I'll be doing, that kind of thing. I just need to honor myself. It takes a lot of work to put videos together, and I have a lot of other projects on the go, so I need to make sure everything's balanced and I'm honoring myself and making sure I provide you with the best service I can. Alright, let's get right into this video. Alright, so in this slideshow, what I really want to get across is the science behind green cleaning, or the lack thereof, and the effects to us. Now, I pulled together a whole bunch of peer-reviewed journals, as well as articles that have looked at peer-reviewed journals, and I put it all together in a concise way that I hope it is easy to understand for everyday folks, right? How do you clean your apartment, your house, that kind of thing, and why does this important to you? So saying that, I put a lot of peer-reviewed journals below, so please check those out. I encourage you to critically think, question, ask me questions, all of those kind of things. I'm not an expert. I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that. I'm just taking from this research that's already existing. Okay, so that being said, let's get started. Okay, so these slides are going to primarily focus on three things: the effects of chemicals on our environment, specifically cleaning supplies, and the effect on our health, as well as through cleaning, if we're creating an absolute or a pretty close to germ-free environment, what is the effect on our lives? What is the effect on our health? So we'll be talking about that. Okay, so the effects on chemicals on our environment. And so now let's take it to the big view of how everything's impacting. So we know that we're getting impacted by air pollution, water supply, damaged ecosystems, bioaccumulation in animals and plants, and that includes us as humans as well. So what does bioaccumulation mean? So all the different kinds of chemicals are building up in our system, as well as they're probably interacting in unhealthy ways, and so that will impact us. The other thing is there's also lots of research on how that accumulation can be passed on to newborn baby as well. Ozone depletion is another impact. Now that's more focused on carbon-based pollution and things like that, but I'm not an expert, but I believe there's other factors involved in that as well. One of the things I do want to talk about is how all of these things are interplaying, and it's hard to measure the impact on each one, because each ecosystem and one is having different levels and have different animals, and each individual member of an animal or plant species is going to be affected differently, so it's hard to see what that looks like. Okay, so the effects chemicals on our health. Now there's been several studies in healthcare facilities, and really looking at what are the effects or changes in healthcare facilities, as many are trying to go green, and so they really looked what was the effect, was there any changes in the environment, those kind of things. Now some of the research that they did is not relevant to basic households. Whereas they're looking for to make sure that there's higher level of cleanliness because we're working with sick folk, right? In our case, we're talking about homes, apartments, those kind of things. So it's not as critical. But I've pulled out some of the primary things that are important to be aware of, the effects on those regular cleaning supplies and how they affect our house or health. So now, what kind of diseases or things that could they cause? Now, what they found is you can get dermatitis, endocrine and neurological effects. So functioning of the brain can affect cancer, create cancer. Also in terms of creating asthma and other respiratory disorders. I have asthma, so sometimes I wonder if there's some effect to me. Musculoskeletal disorders and cleaning staff. As well as, I thought this was funny, but this is kind of serious in the sense that dissatisfaction of patients is the first thing a patient smells or is impacted by the scent of chemicals when you come into a healthcare facility. It's not going to be, number one, a very good healing environment for you. You're not going to enjoy it. And depending on your sensitivity, you could have reactions right away. So this is actually quite important. Okay, so here's some studies on the childcare and younger schools, younger middle school, that kind of thing. Now, what they found was 11% of people acquired asthma from these chemicals used in the school systems. 4 out of 5 were bystanders, so they're not even the people that were using the chemicals or the sprays. Now, children also got 5% received cancer, 30% received asthma, and many developed this later in life. So again, here's another thing of sometimes you can't track because it's acquiring later in life. So where do you track back to where it came from? It's really difficult. And often in schools too, there are so many chemicals, paint chemicals, etc., etc. And you're probably getting a combination. It's not just any one thing. It's probably many things. Okay, so let's talk about the realities of germ-free environments. So first off, bacteria, viruses, and fungi, they're everywhere. And most don't hurt us. And for the ones that do, we kind of need them. Because it's like, if you want to get some biceps, but you don't work out, you're unlikely to get those biceps, right? Unless you're just genetically attuned to being bigger, that kind of thing. Same with, your immune system. Most of us, we need to work them out. So that means our bodies need to interact with the bacteria, virus, and fungi in order to build our immune system. It needs something to work up against. Now, we don't want so much exposure that it's overwhelming our immune system, but we need some there to work it out. Now, the other thing is our bodies are mini ecosystems. So we have our tummies, our guts, our skin, our mouths, etc., etc. In each of these cases, there are good and bad bacteria. What ends up happening is a lot of cases when we use chemicals, we affect those ecosystems in our bodies, and we end up wiping them out or partially, and then they're not functioning to the best of our ability. And each of those ecosystems, each of those parts of our bodies interact, and so if one's off balance, the rest are off balance, and we need to have all of them working together the best we can. We're all human and we're navigating this world the best we can, and it's sometimes difficult to get that balance happening. But it's important to keep that in mind when we're looking at those ecosystems, those bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Okay, so factors impacting our immune system. So we talked a little bit about those chemicals. We talked a little bit about free bacteria zones in our body and the negative effect. But let's pull it out again and look at all the different things that can impact that immune system. So we have drug-resistant organisms. So these are organisms that we're trying to eliminate. Maybe it's a virus or whatever, and you have a small number that is immune to the drug, and so they mass produce. Antibiotics is very similar. Then we have pesticides and herbicides on our food, and they can affect our immune systems. The amount of proper nutrients we have in our diet is so important. Most of our foods are actually very low in nutrients because they're so mass produced, genetically modified, all of those kind of things. We're not getting the good bunches of nutrients, and the more we can grow our food in our own gardens, those kind of things are the best that can happen, right? And I know not everyone's able to, but it's a spectrum. The more you can move that direction, the better. Genetics. So how your body's already primed to be immune to these bacteria and viruses, right? And then we talked about chemicals like paint, smoking. They can affect much more out there. And then the last thing, obviously, is the chemicals we use in our cleaning. So all of these impact our immune system, and there's probably tons more. And so we're focusing on the chemicals that we use for cleaning. Okay, so now we're going to look at what are the effects of germ-free environments, the autoimmune diseases that are created. So number one, we have asthma and allergies and others. And I'm pretty sure that my asthma, at least in part, is due to that. There's probably some genetics there as well. Increased inflammation. Time and time again, research has shown, mostly experimenting on rats, where they're comparing them in germ-free environments and not. And the ones in a germ-free environment, they are having lots of inflammation in their system. And what's happening is this affects a critical role in secondary and lymphoid structure development. So things like intestines in the gut. Ulcerative colitis. Hopefully I've said that right. Arthritis, type 1 diabetes, and Parkinson's. Now the last few, the science gets a little bit complicated. And so I'm not going to go into detail, but again, those research articles are below, so if you're interested how they connect, please check them out. Alright, so last slide. So, clean versus germ-free. Now, more and more science is talking about, because of what we've talked about, is that children need exposure to germs. Picking things off the floor, eating dirt, all of those things. I know sometimes it sounds gross and whatever, but it's a necessity. The children's bodies need to build the immune system to these things. So we want the bacteria, we want the funguses, no matter where it is. And again, like we talked about, we want a balance. So we don't want to be overwhelmed, but we don't want we don't want a germ-free environment. We want it in between. So we want to make sure we're cleaning the environment, making sure it is clean, but it's not necessarily germ-free, right? And that's is best to create optimal health. Now, there's exceptions, of course. Like, for example, I'm really sensitive to mold and fungus. So I have to be very mindful of like my plants and things like that if they're developing mold or fungus. If there are other things being that's growing on, I have to remove right away. Um, those kind of things. So everyone's immune system's different from where you're working at right now. So be mindful of that. Okay, so that's all we have for today. I hope you found this video interesting, informative, that kind of thing. If you want to, if you liked it, please press like. If you want to comment, ask questions, please post below. If you are interested in Corey's greenhouse cleaning, please send me a message or subscribe to this channel, and I can answer and support you in any way I can. Thank you so much.